the importance of accepting problems and solving them head on. And that does come with accepting and receiving feedback. Feedback gets lost. Communication, especially with the distributed team, it's become more confusing. We are relying on multiple platforms like emails, Google Chats, Salesforce Chatter, and some of us WhatsApp, and it's just so not efficient. And you're bouncing around these platforms. We have different ways of working and how we go through our days and communicating, and that in itself causes confusion, misunderstandings, and frustrations. So if we can create certain templates of how to respond, and obviously we don't want to proceduralize and templatize everything. It sounds silly just saying it, but there has to be these guidelines, because when you're in the day-to-day and maybe you're stressed about something and you see an email pop up or a chatter pop up, it's just very easy to start pounding the keyboard out of frustration, and it's not sustainable. It causes a lot of stress on both ends, you receiving it because with certain emotions, but then the other person on the other side of the screen. So we have to get better at not only resolving problems more effectively and efficiently, but also giving each other better feedback, both giving and receiving. Feedback is essential. It's how we improve individually and as a team. But when it's done poorly, it makes the other person defensive, resentful, and it can even damage relationships. So the importance of feedback is so important. It's just not about checking the box like feedback, or these are our core values. It's about making sure feedback leads to positive change, whether that's improving someone's performance or making the team stronger overall. It's called the 4A framework for feedback. It's very simple. There's 2 A's for when you're giving feedback and 2 A's for when you're receiving feedback. The first is aim to assist. When you give feedback, your intent should always be to assist. You're not venting or being critical for the sake of it. You're not jumping down somebody's throat just because you're having a bad day. You're helping an individual or a team improve in some way. So framing your feedback with positive intent ensures it's constructive and not just tearing somebody down or blasting something off because you had some form of emotional trigger. So for example, instead of saying you're being annoying, which I don't think any one of us has, but say something like, by changing this behavior, we'll build better client relationships. It's just the slight change in wording makes all of the difference. You're aiming to assist. And then make sure it's actionable. Criticism without a clear path forward doesn't help anybody. It's just you're just complaining. Give the person specific actions that they can take to improve. So for instance, instead of saying your presentation was weak, try saying, if you incorporate more diverse examples, your presentation will have a bigger impact. Now they know what they can do next time possibly. This makes the feedback useful and encourages change. It's not just complaining or blaming. And then receiving feedback. Our first instinct is really as humans, is to defend ourselves. But that gets in the way of learning, of accepting problems and solving them, of becoming better. So the key is to appreciate the feedback that you're getting, even if it's uncomfortable. It doesn't matter. You can always appreciate and respect what people are telling you. So a simple thank you for the feedback goes a long way in showing that you're open to what's being said. Before you respond, take time to think about what's being said. Resist the urge to react right away. Feedback is a gift. It helps us see things from another perspective. So take a moment to reflect before deciding your next steps or your next responses. Don't just read it, get triggered, get emotional, and start blasting away at the keyboard, angry typing, but then accept or discard it. You're not obligated to act on every piece of feedback you receive. What matters is that you listen and consider it. That's all. You might say, I'll work on that. Or if it doesn't apply, thanks for your input. I appreciate that. But either way, show that you've heard the feedback. So this quarter, I want us to focus on building a culture of feedback. We have to improve it. Let's be more candid, more frequent, and more thoughtful with our feedback. Don't just give it, receive it. And remember, it's not about being right or showing off or showing more. It's about making each other better, making each team better. And if you want to take a deeper dive, really the 4A framework comes from the books Radical Candor or No Rules, great books. But let's start today. Commit to being open to feedback and making it part of our everyday culture.